All right, everybody. Welcome back to another podcast for Survivor Grand Rapids Bad Blood. It has been a hot second since we last spoke when we were on with John going over episode 13, I believe. And since then, we've released the finale of Survivor Grand Rapids Bad Blood. The final six faced off, and we claimed a winner. Spoilers ahead for anything that we are going to talk about today. We have a really fun set of podcasts coming up, and this is the first batch of them with one of our contestants from the final six joining us today. So without further ado, we can welcome them. And like I said, spoiler alert ahead, please welcome our runner-up, our second runner-up for Survivor Grand Rapids Bad Blood, Kerry. Kerry, how's it going?
It's good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me today. I'm so excited to be able to kick this off, especially with you, because we, had so much fun talking about your game throughout the season and seeing your game develop from day one to where we're at now. And I know, it was kind of a special experience on the side for you too. So I'm excited to kind of dive into things and see how everything went for you. So I guess, how was watching that finale back for you?
Yeah, it was good. It's been kind of a while, obviously, since we filmed the season. So in my mind, at the time I was like so in the moment, so worried about just making it to the next round that I didn't really think that I was thinking so much ahead, in terms of the final three vote. I completely forgot about the conversation with Luke and Zoe about final three. So that was really interesting to watch back and kind of remember that, oh yeah, I did think about strategy more than I remember thinking about it. So it was good. I really enjoyed it. And it definitely brought back all the fun memories from playing the game. So it was great. You did a great job.
Thank you. I'm glad that you got your, your. I don't even want to say redemption, but it definitely felt like a cherry on top coming out with that immunity win and finding your spot in the finals. I know, watching it here at in Cincinnati with our watch party, everybody cheered when you won that final immunity, so that was really fun to see. But yeah, it's been about almost 3 years now since we've played, so it is kind of. A lot of that I also kind of went over my head of where we were at. And that game was so fluid, I guess, a lot of different things going on, a lot of different POVs. And so that was kind of what was hard for me to piece together, was how everybody's story kind of intertwined, because everybody had such a unique point of view on the game, and once you start piecing them together, everything kind of came together. And you had quite an interesting point of view of the game, because I felt like you were very much on the bottom for most of it, but you still kind of had an idea of where people lied, just because you got to be third party viewer of that. So I guess starting off, we can start from the very beginning of coming into the season. What was your relationship with Survivor Dearborn? Did you watch it before? What was your knowledge of the game?
I had very little knowledge of the game. I've never watched the actual show Survivor. I've watched a little bit more now, but before, coming into the show, I'd never seen really any of it. I obviously knew that Noah and you guys had done this whole production for so many years. But I never really watched those episodes at the time. It was more when I know, don't tell them. I never really watched them until I knew that I was going to be a part of it. And then I was all right, I have to study up a little bit. So I remember I definitely watched all of the other Grand Rapids season, and that was really good. And that is pretty much where I learned how the game of Survivor works, what strategies might help you, what might hurt you, what do you do if you get an idol? Like what, how can alliances help you? Things like that. And
Yeah.
like I never really would have thought about that as much if I had not watched those like
Okay. Yeah.
episodes beforehand. So I'm glad I did. But yeah, in terms of the actual show Survivor, I really didn't have much background on
That's
that.
okay. I feel like a lot of people either, their only introduction to the game was watching the fresh meat or past seasons of Dearborn and stuff, which kind of makes it a unique brand of Survivor. We've talked about that on here before too, of people just it's kind of like the off brand to the off brand of where we're at right now, of people watching other people play the game of Survivor that they have also seen people play Survivor. So
Yeah.
it's kind of where we're at right now, and it's not a bad place to be. I think we cooked up a pretty good season. So,
Yeah.
but did Noah like fill you in on any like tips on anything, or was he just kind of like, good luck?
Yeah. I mean, I think when I was watching the episodes and like trying to study up, I was like, telling him, okay, here's, I think this might be a good idea, like, alliances, whatever. I don't remember like specifically what we talked about, but then he he basically was like, yeah, that like it's probably good to go in with like a strong alliance and kind of have that throughout because I think he had that with Martin, I want to say,
Yeah,
in the first season. So obviously he won. So I, thought that that would be a good strategy going in. And then, of course, going to exile immediately, that kind of all went out the window. But that was, I remember that was definitely one thing we talked about. But, overall, he just kind of let me, play the game. He
yeah,
didn't really
go for it.
have any,
Yeah,
control
I
over it. So.
yeah, I know. We talked kind of, on the phone a little bit about it. And you said that he didn't clue you in on like how the jury kind of works. And I guess did that kind of Philly, like, I guess, do you think that might have been a detriment to how that final juror, like, we'll talk more about that final
Mhm.
three, but like, I guess, were you thinking that far ahead at that point, or were you kind of, more taking it round by round?
Definitely taking more round by round. The one thing I think we were talking about, I remember him saying, he's like, "Yeah, I probably should have like told you like more about how like the final tribal council works." So
Yeah,
that would have been good to be a little bit more prepared. Which I like obviously being prepared for things. Who doesn't? But um, I think that probably was a little bit of a detriment. But in the end, like I was happy with everything that happened. And so I think like maybe towards the final rounds, also like thinking about there were a lot of conversations with kind of other people I saw about, okay, I want to take, you two to the final three. Like I wasn't really thinking about that really
yeah,
at all because I was like, I just want to get to the final three.
exactly.
So, but I know that's obviously a very common thing that happens in Survivor. I just didn't really know at the time.
Mhm. I think you were also just in a position where you couldn't really make those plans. Like, besides maybe with Zoe, it seemed like
Mhm.
everybody else was having their own little alliances with each other, and you did eventually find that with Zoe, but you really were just the name that people threw out, and until they needed you to flip those numbers on, I
Mhm.
think it was around like John's vote out, did you finally start to get that power. So, I mean, I don't blame you for not having those conversations, because you really were put in a position to survive. And part of that, I think, was getting paired with your partner Josie from the very beginning. Was you started that game. I paired you up with Josie based off of the bond of being related to winners. So you obviously were in a relationship, or are in a relationship, with Noah, and she's Juliana's sister, which she's mentioned a couple times in the season. So and you get sent to Exile Island with her pretty early on, round two, where you skip the second round, and do that hold or take advantage game, and you end up coming home with an idol. And we all know kind of how that plays out. Again, we'll discuss that. But could you walk us through, I guess, that exile trip with Josie and where your mind was at? Like, were you on her side? What did you want out of that relationship with Josie?
Yeah, so I think going into the first exile, if I remember correctly, it was after, or I think it was the second round, I think. Yeah.
Mhm.
Whenever it was, I think I was nervous about my own name being like brought up in the votes, because like there was that first challenge and
Yeah.
I had that like big role at the end with the first challenge. And obviously we ended up losing. Um, somehow got through that. And then after that, I was like, okay, well, I was, kind of got through the first one. But my name could easily be brought up, for additional like tribals going forward.
Yeah.
So I was definitely like off the bat a little bit cautious about where I stood in the tribe. So then when we went to exile, I remember at that point I was actually kind of relieved because meant I made it to the next round. And I was like, you know what, maybe people will kind of forget about the challenge and I can start over a little bit when I get back. So then going into exile with Josie, I thought this is a great opportunity to make an alliance, like, whether it will help me out now or later, who knows.
Mhm.
But this is someone where it's just like, just this one on one time, like, there's no other conversations being had. We can just like talk about what's going on in the game and then, make a plan about how we want to move forward with this relationship. And I think we were talking like about that being the plan, like we could be an alliance going forward. And so that was my intention. I think that was Josie's intention as well. Obviously, things kind of ended up getting a little bit messier down the line,
Yeah.
but I definitely did want to have that alliance. And our conversations were just about like what's been going on in our tribes. And so I think it started off like on a good foot at exile.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that was a good move on your part, at least, and on Josie's part. I mean, the intention was there. I feel like it did end up crumbling when she got back to camp, just because I don't think she was the best at explaining that whole situation. But and she was already kind of on her tribe's radar. But we see that strategy work out for Luke and John, a couple rounds later. So I think your mind was in the right spot. On that initial Vendetta tribe, was there anybody that were vibing with right off the bat? Or like, I know you came from Detroit, that Detroit side of things. Like, were you tight with James or anybody else in the game that you might have gravitated towards? Or did you kind of feel like you were entering truly as like a solo player at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I think, knew a few people beforehand. Not like super well. I think I learned after the fact when I like met everyone outside of the game and seeing like realizing people who were like really good friends for years that I played the game. And I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that. Um, but yeah, I would say in the early stages, I think I was talking to like Adrian a little bit, Aubrey maybe, just kind of like, you know, people here and there. Like it wasn't any like super strong alliances at the beginning, but I think, you know, people like that, we were kind of like just like thinking through options, being
Yeah.
reasonable, not throwing out any crazy, moves or anything immediately. Like, wanted to play it a little bit more low key. So sort of gravitating to those kind of players.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that relationship with Aubrey is something that is really underrated throughout the whole season, because we don't really see it get addressed too much. But like, you and Aubrey started off together, never really like were directly working with each other, but there seemed to be like some sort of level of trust that we might have seen come to fruition in that end game, especially around like the John votes. But yeah, could you kind of maybe speak to, I guess, your relationship with Aubrey, starting
Yeah.
off with her?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, like, I remember being asked in confessionals, like, throughout the season, various points, like, is there anyone you feel like you can trust? And she was always a name that I did bring up. I think because we started on the same tribe, um, and, went through all of those tribals together. And I think we were just kind of on the same page with a lot of things.
Hmm.
So whenever we were able to be on the same tribe, I think going forward, it was that level of kind of like, comfort. I've talked to this person before, that kind of thing. Obviously, I know Sydney very well.
Yeah,
So I was like, oh, they're
kind
so
of thought the
similar,
same.
Yeah. So, yeah, and she's a great player. Like, she knows the game so well. So when she was, kind of orchestrating these votes, and kind of saying her case, like, I really kind of like trusted her opinion and what she was saying. So definitely was someone I gravitated towards
Yeah.
throughout.
Yeah, she really went to bat for you in that vote that eventually led to Grace going home, where it was between the two
Mhm.
of you and Adrian throughout his number one, Grace, to keep you because you were really good at puzzles potentially, and
Who
then
knows?
yeah, and then eventually, Aubrey. I don't know if she necessarily like flipped that vote, but she definitely, vouched for you quite a bit in those um in those conversations.
Yeah.
But at that tribal council, you were holding an idol that was good for only two rounds, and you held that. So you were so close to going home. Was that, watching that back? I know it's been a while since you've been watching the
Mhm.
episode, but watching that back, do you think that that was more like a read on your part, or like were you, like to what level would you like accumulate that to luck, or a really good read from you?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I definitely felt like pretty confident that I knew which way the vote was going.
Mhm.
So, thankfully it did end up going the way I expected it to, but obviously, you know, I think knowing a little bit more about the game of Survivor now, it's like you have an idol in your pocket and you hear your name being thrown around, like, you should probably play it. So I think maybe knowing that, maybe I would have played it at the time. But, when I was in that tribal, like, with the people I had talked to, I did feel um, obviously secure enough to not play it. So I think that had to do with some of the chats that I was having with people, but definitely, could have easily gone a different way if some people didn't vote with Grace or for Grace. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're also in you've spoke to it a little bit, but you're also in a really hard spot of being like, all right, I said nothing I got from exile, and here's an idol that,
Yes.
I'm just
Yeah.
pulling out. So, um,
Mhm. That was a
but
big
one
thing.
thing I know a lot of people were talking about was that following round at the Joint Tribal Council, where you eventually give that idol to Josie,
Yeah.
and that I think is a big egg that we can crack open with different,
Yeah.
hypotheticals. And but let's stick to, I guess, the facts of where we're at right now. So your tribe is you're told that you're going to a joint tribal council with the Vengeance tribe. Your partner's over there, Josie's over there. Um, but your current tribe is severely outnumbered 6-11. And
Mhm.
they all find out because Hannah went to an exile island with Tyler that Josie is kind of collectively their target.
Mhm.
And Josie's your partner. You don't know if you necessarily want to go that way, but that's where the tribe's going. When did you start thinking about, giving Josie your idol in that moment?
That's a good question. So I remember, like, knowing for sure that I wanted to play it, like, in some capacity. It was my last round that I could play it. So part of it was like, well, I want to play the game, to its fullest. I got this idol. I definitely want to use it. This is a perfect opportunity when like our tribe is kind of under the gun, basically. So for a while, I wanted to, like, I was just set on like playing it for myself because I didn't know what the other tribe was going to, like, who of us that they were going to pick. It could have been any of us.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to play it for myself for a while. I was cautious at the same time about not wanting, like, if I play it for myself, then obviously it shows that I lied to my tribe. And especially if I didn't tell them about it, like when we were all talking about what to do, like that would have been a really bad look as well.
Mhm.
I think I wanted to give it to Josie, or to answer your question, like the moment I thought of giving it to Josie was, I think, because I didn't want it to come out that I lied about having it.
Mhm.
And so I could just kind of hand it off, but still use it and still like potentially to my own advantage. Like if she stayed in the game, that obviously shows, like that's a pretty big
Yeah.
gesture to like give an idol. So like that would strengthen that relationship as well. We were also coming from, the past tribal, I think that was like the vote between me and Grace. So, I didn't feel great in general about my standing, like still in the tribe. So those were all thoughts that were going into that decision to give it to Josie. I think there were obviously a lot of other different scenarios that you could think through, but in the moment, that was like, those were the thoughts that were coming to mind when I decided to give it to Josie.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big play. I mean, it eventually doesn't really work out in your favor. I feel like that gave you the scarlet letter.
Mhm.
One of the things, though, that from the host POV, but also the editor, Survivor fan, and me was like, I know that you lied to your tribe, but in a moment like that, like, why wouldn't you have played it for like James or somebody that was
Yeah.
on your tribe of who they were going to target? Because in my mind, like, I know I lied to them, but if I can help them in some way,
Mhm.
how does that happen? Did that cross your mind at all? Or is that, just like, hypothetical, could have, should have, would have, could have type of situation? Or
Yeah.
do you think like it was James's time?
No, I definitely don't think it was James's time. I think that was a like big disappointment that it was him that went home, and I think he could have played a really great game. I think he should not have gone home, and I feel very bad about that. But I think, like, again, I obviously just wanted to make it to the next round.
Yeah.
So in my mind, if I were to give it to like anybody in my own tribe, that would be making myself vulnerable. And I just didn't know what way the other tribe was going to vote. And then, on the flip side of that, what I didn't think through as much is like, by me giving the idol to Josie, it's the person with the next most votes that goes home, and that easily could have been me.
Yeah.
So there's kind of like two sides to that I think the part about like, me giving the idol to Josie and then someone else goes home, that part I didn't think about so much, but I did think about, if I gave my idol to somebody else in the tribe, then, that would leave myself vulnerable. I think what would have been maybe a better idea is just to be upfront with it in that situation and just like say like, here's the idol, if we can get some intel like from the other team, like, who they're targeting, like I can give this to someone. But again, it was like in that time that I was still kind of like feeling not like super strong with anyone in my tribe at the time. Like, my name had just been in a vote. I'd gone
Mhm.
to exile. It was a fine line to toe, I guess. Like, I could strengthen this alliance that I have with Josie, or I could try to strengthen alliances with a tribe that maybe doesn't trust me as much right now. So it was kind of a lot to consider, but
Yeah.
in the end, I made that decision, and I obviously again feel so bad that James went home at that point, but yeah, that's how it
It is,
went.
yeah, it is a very hindsight being 2020
Mhm.
decision right there. I think for me, like, I feel like that is a good move still, going to strengthen that relationship. It just so happens that, you weren't aware that Josie was at that point probably the most chaotic player in the game.
Yeah,
Uh, to kind of put it lightly, I feel like
it was fun watching back
yeah,
all of that.
I remember watching it, and like Josie's
Mhm.
explaining like, that her exile trip with everybody, and then John comes down, and it was just a whirlwind on that tribe. And
Yeah.
you come back to your camp and you're like, yeah, like we just held everything because we lost our vote. And everybody's like, oh, okay. So like they were already bubbling over at Vengeance. They were itching to
Mhm.
make a move over there. But we end up swapping, and you end up
Mhm.
on the same tribe as Josie.
Mhm.
Um, was there any? You do a morning confessional before we even get to the swap. I should say you
Mhm.
do a morning confessional where you say that you regret making that move. How soon did you regret making that move? Was it immediate? Was it overnight? Like, I guess what were your thoughts on that?
So I remember at the joint tribal, I think it was so I first of all, I didn't know if anybody saw me give
Hmm.
the idol to Josie, and at the tribal, we sat down, and I think it was Adrian, he whispered to me, he's like, "Did you get an idol?" Like, from I was like, "Oh, shoot, like, are people talking about that? Did he see that?" Like, I don't know what was going on. So then I started to get very stressed out about, like, doubling down on the lie, which,
Yeah.
haunted me for the rest of time. So I was getting a little bit, I think, in the moment when I played it and I realized I had to like continue to lie about like, oh shoot, people are going to ask where Josie got the idol. Like, what am I going to say? Like, what do I do? So I think that part was pretty immediate. Obviously, after James going home as well, that was also something I regretted. So it was, yeah, I think I felt all of those things pretty immediately. Yeah, so that's the answer to the
When you
question.
ended up swapping on Josie's tribe, did you feel that was, were you like, oh shit, like we got to iron this out? Or did you feel like that was going to potentially be better for you?
I was hoping that being on the same tribe, like we could just talk and be like, okay, let's just like stick to our story. And then, from her perspective, I think obviously she was kind of in the hot seat because she was the one who played the idol. So then people are asking her where she got the idol. And I think from her perspective, it makes sense that she would tell the truth because then that gets the heat off of her a little bit, maybe. From my perspective, I was like thinking about myself. So I was like, we need to stick to the story, like really make sure that it didn't come up that I had given her the idol. So I was actually really glad that we were on the same tribe and could just like talk about it. And then maybe like also my like alliance that I had formed could help, you know,
Yeah.
like work our way in the tribe.
Yeah, you kind of got served a double-edged sword there because, like, on one hand, you had Josie, who was, kind of going scorched earth on your guys' lie and spreading things to the postmas. And then on the other hand, you have Allie, who is also somewhat against you, even though you guys, share that vendetta idol and stuff. And
Mhm.
she's against you and Adrian for a hot second. And I guess, did you feel that heat at all? And I guess at what point did you know that you had to cut ties with Josie? Because there's about 2 rounds. I think Josh goes home,
Yeah.
and then you eventually throw a challenge, which I'm sure you were probably on the outs of. Uh,
Yeah.
and and Josie goes home on that. So like, what point between those two rounds were you like, okay, I gotta cut this off?
Yeah, it was pretty quickly, I think. I think as soon as like, I don't remember who the first person was to ask me the question like, "Oh, did you like," or say, Josie is saying that you gave her the idol at Exile, or, whatever the story was. Um, I think as soon as I heard that, which was pretty quickly, then, it was like, this can't, like, if the longer Josie stays in the game, like the more heat I have on myself. So it was, I think we were having those conversations pretty quickly. And I just remember like so many times having to just like keep lying about it, which is, it just became so much more of a bigger deal than I intended it to be. Like, so many people have idols, and it's like everybody knows about it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that person has an idol. But then I chose to go the lying route, and so I just had to stick to it because I knew if I changed anything about my story or added any detail, like, people would like pick it apart. So I just
Yeah.
had to keep saying, I don't know where she got it, and like just not say anything else really.
It was really funny and really highlighted like Tyler and Allie's kind of hypocrisy. We've talked about that on the pod before with Tyler. So when like Josie would come and say like, "Yep, Kerry gave me the idol. I'm against Kerry," and then you'd go and say, like, "No, I didn't do it. Like, I don't know where she got that idol. It wasn't there." And Tyler says like, "We can't trust Kerry." But also, like, I don't trust Josie at all. So, like, it was just like you guys were tied to each other. And no matter how honest you were with Tyler, because it seemed at a certain point you were like, I need to latch on to this relationship with Tyler, or at least, try to be upfront with Tyler and get in with him. That he just wasn't reciprocating that alliance. So I guess talk about that, because at the certain point you get sent to exile down the line and you win that tribe swap advantage and you switch to be on Tyler's tribe. So could you kind of walk us through that relationship with Tyler, of especially in those early days or early rounds before you eventually have to flip on him?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's very clear like he was playing a really strong game, like calling a lot of shots and having good relationships with people. And I think that was very clear to everybody on the tribe. So I think it was a mindset of like, if I can have someone like that who's kind of being a decision maker in the tribe, like, believe my story and, you know, have some kind of alliance with myself, then that would really help me get through these few rounds until this kind of like hopefully blows over. So that was my thinking on it. I think also he was someone that was not on the original tribe, and I think I was just looking to see, who that I haven't worked with before, like, do I vibe with, like, who can I be on the same page with? And
Yeah.
I think Tyler is very good about like when you're having these discussions, like, like, obviously for the most part, when you're talking to someone about who you're going to vote out, you're not going to say it's like the person that you're talking to. But I think some people are very convincing with it. And Tyler is definitely one of those people. So I don't know if he was going to necessarily vote me out, but I think when we were talking, it definitely seemed like he had trust in my story and what I was telling him.
Yeah, I guess it definitely seemed like you either had more trust in Tyler or at least like knew that he was like you needed to stick with him in order to survive like those swaps. Watching it back, were you surprised at how much he might have, discounted you? Or like, I guess, was that the vibe that you were getting out there too?
I wouldn't say I was surprised, because I just knew like my standing overall was just not great with anybody. Like, obviously this, um, this idol thing was, you know, everybody was talking about it and not really trusting of me. So I think that, like, you know, I just kind of felt that from everybody. So I definitely, I would, I would not say I was surprised. No.
Gotcha. Well, so yes, you go to exile again. You pull that belt. Or let's rewind a little bit. You are getting that split vote between you and Brooklyn, and they eventually flip that vote to Adrian in those 30 seconds left.
Mhm.
I guess, how is that relationship with Adrian? Because I feel like you guys, he vouched for you, at OG Vendetta, and it seemed like you guys were kind of lockstep, or at least shared a pretty decent relationship on that swap tribe. How blindsided were you by that? Like, were you just happy to still be there? Like, what was that round like for you?
That was like the most blindsided moment for me of the game. Like, I had no idea. I was not in the loop on that vote whatsoever. I think me and I want to say Brooklyn, I think, where we like voted for each other maybe, and then everybody else voted for Adrian. So that's, you know, I think I thought the vote was going towards Brooklyn, but obviously that didn't happen. I was, yeah, I was super surprised. I didn't really understand it because obviously now looking back, you know, I think the concern was like Zoe on the other tribe and that alliance. But at the time, I didn't really understand it because we were still kind of focused on like challenges, I guess. And you know, Adrian was a great, you know, player in the challenges.
Mhm.
I also think he was a great person to work with. And I was like kind of bummed that of all people, it was Adrian. So yeah, that was crazy. And like
Was a
also, yeah, I was gonna ask you, like seeing that happen, like watching it back, how quickly that happened was like crazy. Like, were you in the know at all of like what was going on?
No, usually they come to me and they say like, this is, where people are leaning. It's a Kerry Brooklyn split
Mhm.
probably. And I know who to maybe target questions to, but they were like, Tyler might have pulled off a blindside on Adrian. Like, we'll see.
Mhm.
Usually I don't know until we count the votes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of a blindside for me, but even in editing, it's still, we've talked about it on Tyler's podcast, and uh,
Mhm.
Tyler likes to like 40 chess things where like he like made an assumption that somehow eventually got proven right, even though like the A plus B to get that assumption were just not accurate. Like, so that was eventually what led to his downfall, of him assuming
Mhm.
some things, but his assumptions were always right. So him assuming that Adrian was closer with Zoe was right. But I also think Adrian was close with him on that tribe. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I think it was a good move for Tyler. It was definitely probably one of the quicker moves that we've seen happen. Uh,
Mhm.
I think there's been maybe blindsides here or there that have maybe come to fruition. Off the top of my head, I really can't name them in our franchise, but the way he rallied those 4 votes together and just left you guys in the outs was definitely something. That was a mafia move from Tyler on that.
Yeah. Mhm.
But I mean, yeah, he comes to you after and it's just kind of like, it wasn't you. So
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
you, what were you thinking with that? Were you like kind of like, yeah, I guess so, thanks. Like, what was that?
Yeah.
What did you?
Yeah, honestly, I remember, I mean, I more remember talking to Brooklyn after, be like, "Well, sorry, I voted you." Like I thought everybody else was. And
Yeah.
she told me the same thing. Um, yeah, I guess in terms of like the conversation with Tyler, I think, yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to make it to the next round, like especially in that situation. I think it could have easily been um me who would have gone home. So you know, I was obviously grateful that that didn't happen, but at the same time, it's just like, okay, I'm really like, you know, it's just the hits keep coming. Like I already don't feel good. And now I had no idea about a vote that was going to happen. So It wasn't
That
a big
I
deal.
think that was the closest that you were to going home out of all the rounds. That might have been
Yeah, yeah.
because I feel like Allie really was pushing you. And
Yeah.
did you know that? Like, I know you guys started off on Vendetta again. You shared that idol. Did you know that Allie was coming for you?
I did not know that. That was actually something that was interesting watching back as well. Um, we obviously we come from the original tribe together, but um, we probably didn't have like as many like one-on-one chats as other people. So it, you know, I think when she was then on the same tribe as Tyler as well, I think the two of them, had a good like they were a very very powerful alliance that wanted to kind of make certain decisions on the tribe. But I think even then on and throughout the game, we probably didn't have as many talks about like what we wanted to do, and so there's certain people that even though you don't have an alliance with, like you feel more comfortable like saying, what your thoughts are and strategy and next steps. And I probably during the game didn't feel that with Allie. You know, not just her, there's lots of people, but yeah, so I didn't know that that was like the agenda being said, but at the same time, I don't think we had the closest of alliances. So,
Yeah, I feel like Allie, something that you at least pointed out, and it was something that I made sure made the edit because it was one of the first times that somebody was just calling them out as not loving their dynamic, and it was when Allie told you and Adrian that, hey, I told Tyler about our idol that we're sharing together, and then it cuts to confessional of you being
mm,
like, don't love that. And like I feel like that's kind of foreshadowing that dynamic that they
yeah,
have where Allie was playing a really solid individual game, and then once they connected, it was just, I don't want to say Allie played a great individual game, but she was definitely Tyler's like left hand man or right hand man or whatever to catapult them further in the game. So
mm.
I guess heading into those next rounds, like maybe fast forwarding a bit to the merge, like did you pinpoint them as that dynamic, or did it take a couple people convincing you, to make that move on them? Like, were you already uneasy of them heading into the merge?
I think I mean, yes, I mean, everybody is kind of looking out for those big alliances and, um, the partnership, obviously, that was one thing that people had in mind. I think what I more so was hearing of like people's distrust of Tyler. Um, like, and I think one of the reasons for that is because he had Allie in the game as well. And so I think the combination of Tyler being a really strong player, making a lot of decisions, but also having his sister in the game with him, like that kind of made him a big target. So um, I think it was the general, just like what I was hearing from people. I think.
Okay. And then, yeah, rewinding a tad again, you go to exile again, you get that tribe swap advantage. Like, how was that exile trip? Was that an okay one? Was that an okay point in the game to go to exile? Like, I guess what were your thoughts about that? And do you think you used that advantage properly?
So I don't think I was thrilled about going the second time. Um, it's always a little bit of a break where it's like, okay, at least I don't have to go to tribal and do the whole thing. But at the same time, I think is really like starting to get into the groove of the game a little bit and, wanted to like, I don't know, just keep building alliances, see kind of what strategies we could go down. But then obviously I had to go to exile. So I wasn't super happy about going. I think like I enjoyed the challenge. It was nice to get another advantage. But at least this time, like the story could just be my own and I didn't have to kind of play those dynamics either. But at the time, it's like, then it's a double-edged sword. It's like, okay, because I am going alone, I'm not even getting any insight from anybody else about what's going on. So it was fine. I mean, it was it all worked out, but yeah, going twice was not ideal, especially in that moment.
Yeah, and I remember you going, and I was like, no, like as the friend
Yeah.
side of me, I was like, no,
Yeah.
let Kerry play. Like,
I
so,
know.
uh,
And that was when I think Noah had to leave
yep,
also. So that was like, all right, saying goodbye to like the world right
yeah,
now.
just going out to the corn and having to run some train tracks out
Long
there. So,
tracks. Yep.
so yeah, that kind of brings us to the merge. I know that you kind of have a vote out where Samantha ends up going home. Aubrey and Samantha tried to take a swing at Tyler. You, for the first time, did not have your name thrown out. I think that's probably the only tribal council that your name really wasn't thrown out too much. And then we get to the merge where Tyler is ready for his merge takeover, and and then you have like this counter revolution going against him, led by Luke, Aubrey, Zoe, John eventually hops in, Hannah's in on it. Like, did you? It kind of felt, at least like editing, that you were truly in the middle on that. Did you like how connected were you in that merge vote? And were you worried at all when you were excluded from that safety chain? Were you aware of everything kind of going on?
The safety chain night was like maybe the lowest point I had in the whole game. Like that was because gosh, I need some water.
All good.
But essentially, I was I think at that point I was pretty set on like, okay, I think I want to build alliance with people like Aubrey and like the people that she was talking with as well, um, rather than Tyler and I think it was me, Tyler, Allie, and Sam, I think,
Yeah.
that were not included in that safety chain. So at that point, I had like, for my own game, I was like, okay, I'm hearing people like being really distrustful of Tyler. So I think like that's not a great alliance to have at this point. And so I was, transitioning over to being like wanting to build stronger relationships with other people. And then the safety chain happened, and I was on the outs of that again. And I was like, I didn't even know what to do at that point. I was like, I can't trust anybody in this game. I don't have any alliances. Like I don't feel good at all about this. Um so that was really tough. But I remember like I think during tribal, like I knew it was going to be Tyler that went home, and there was nothing really that like any of the four of us could do about it. But so I didn't really have anything to say like during that time when we were all talking. But yeah, that was a tough moment for sure.
Yeah, it's a tough moment to see. You definitely handled it with good composure, at least, of seeming like you were in on things and knew where things were falling. It really was kind of a shame that you got looped in with that Tyler group when you kind of rarely were working with them. So we sunset on the merge, and we wake up on day 3, and you're still kind of fighting round after round. You're getting your name thrown out by Sam, or like at the Sam tribal, at the Alley tribal, you get a split vote. And then also even at the touchy subjects challenge, you get not some great, I don't know, topics, titles for those.
Yeah, that might have been, maybe actually that was the lowest
That
moment.
was the lowest.
The safety chain might have been second lowest. Yeah.
Okay, so that was just the double whammy, I guess.
Yeah.
Going to bed and waking up. So So yeah, I guess like where did you have a game plan at that point of like who you should start talking to? Because it seemed like Sam and Allie kind of knew they were at the bottom. Allie
Mhm.
did whatever she did by giving Eli her idol. Sam tried to do something, but really couldn't really muster anything up. But you seem to be the only one that saw the inroads of maybe talking to Zoe, maybe talking to Aubrey and saying like, like you guys are a big group. Like you can't vote all the time together. Like we should go for somebody. Like, was that part of the game plan? Like who were you targeting? I guess how did those first couple rounds of the merge play out for you?
Yeah, I think so. What you just said essentially about like, using people who were sort of maybe on the outs of the tribe as more of numbers to get someone else out. That idea was, I think, occurred to me more in the tribe when me and Allie had the split vote. So, like, because, Allie and I had been on same tribe for a long time. And, I think even though we weren't the closest of alliances, I also didn't want to see her go home because I thought we could have kind of used ourselves as numbers to maybe get someone else out that was in that safety chain.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't recall exactly like who said it first, but there was talks of John being a really big player, and
Yeah.
obviously, I think coming out of that, the game with
Yeah.
what was it called?
Subject.
Yeah, touchy subject. I think coming out of that too, it's like, okay, John is like, you know, so likable, like such a good player, could really get a lot of votes at the jury. Um, so that the round with me and Allie, I think that was the first kind of thought of that point. I think after Allie went home, I was feeling like, okay, for sure it's going to be me. But I think that was around the time I started talking more to like Aubrey and Zoe and things like that, and just trying to, get those or strengthen those relationships. And at the same time, that is also when other people kind of came to the realization that they wanted to start getting more people out that were maybe in their alliance or kind of in that safety chain.
Mhm.
And it was a good time to do that because there were enough people to kind of be swayed to get some of those bigger players out. So I think the timing and the relationships I had at that point worked out well so that I could keep, playing the game. But definitely had to get through those first couple rounds for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you had a tough go. It was really hard during our podcast. That's when our Kerry stands unite started popping up. We're in our comments. People wanted you to. They're rooting for you, and it's very easy to see why. You were on the outs and getting your name thrown out, and you really did nothing to deserve that, other than the whole Josie idol that just puts you on the outside, and you really
Mhm.
can't take that away from you because you were still trying to play hard. It wasn't like you were doing anything bad. So I think we had John on for his podcast, and he said like this is like Kerry was the missing piece to the game. Like I feel like Zoe got to you first and was able to really kind of spearhead that end game really of deciding like where the game was going. I mean, obviously, I feel like Aubrey steered the ship quite a bit too, and like navigating those final rounds. But I think you had a big contribution of whoever you were going for was where some numbers were going to fall.
Mhm.
That so I think that was a very solid move, and that kind of brings us to where our finale is, where you're coming in kind of fresh off that John vote, and Zoe and you were aligned together, and you touch base with her, and then you kind of set your sights on those next people, and it kind of is broken up into pairs a little bit, where
Mhm.
people are looking at Aubrey and Hannah, and then like people are looking at maybe Aubrey and Luke. Hannah's bringing that up a lot. Eli and Hannah have a secret alliance because Hallie shared that Eli had the idol, and Hannah then did all that stuff. So I guess heading into that final 6, you had a really good read that Hannah and Aubrey were working together, but at that point they were breaking apart. Like Hannah sensed something was up, and Aubrey was cooking something up for her. So I guess, like, where did you fall on that? Did you really care who was going home between the two of them, or like did you want to target one person over the other?
Yeah, I think I mean, both of them were like so great to play the game with. Like they were both so like strategic minded and also really good at all the challenges and everything, and just like genuinely such nice people. So it was, I wouldn't say like, I wanted necessarily either one of them to go home. I think if I had known more about the Aubrey and Luke alliance, maybe that would have been like, I think I could have gotten behind sending or like voting for Luke more than like either of them, honestly. I think when I kind of heard people wanting to vote for Hannah, I just, in terms of wanting to stick with the vote, stick with the numbers, and kind of like, not make a huge, upset of the vote. I think that's kind of where my vote went.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very interesting to see like the Aubrey Luke alliance form and like maybe surpass the one with Aubrey and Hannah at the time. So that was really interesting to watch back.
Okay. Yeah. And with that, I guess I feel like it seemed like you were also trying to protect Zoe a little bit. Like Zoe's name was also getting thrown out every round. So like your name started to become like the bluff of like, yeah, we can go for Kerry, where Zoe ended up becoming like the target.
Yeah.
Zoe's name started getting written down. How, like, were you and Zoe like locked in? Like, this is our, like, we're going to the end, we're working together, or not like necessarily going to the end, but like, was that like your partner that you wanted to ride it out with?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Zoe was my strongest alliance for sure. I think it seemed like people were wanting to vote for her more because of, or like, for a lot of reasons, obviously, but the challenges that she had won made her a big threat. I think also the fact that she could have gotten a lot of jury votes, I think also made her a big threat for sure. But yeah, I think we were on the same page with a lot of things. I felt, comfortable going to her and like talking to her about what we were thinking. So I think it was great to have a stronger alliance in the game at that point, since there were so few people left at that point. And yeah, I was definitely like, down to work with her. Definitely thought she had good, like a good strategic mindset and thought through the game really well. So it was great having Zoe for those rounds.
So big question that I feel like we're going to explore quite a bit in these final interviews that we have with our final 6 regarding Luke, because it seems like the perception of Luke out in the backyard was a lot different than those on the jury bench. So did you, like, you guys were kind of perceiving him to be more just like that physical game? Luke at Final Tribal was saying like that wasn't necessarily the case, like he drove votes. Watching that back, do you like see where the jury might have been coming from and seeing like what Luke was doing? And I guess like what is your read on Luke in the game, and has that changed since watching it? I don't know if that's too big of a question, but yeah,
that's a fair question. Yeah, I think one of the things that was making me laugh watching it back was how me and Luke just kept saying like, oh, we don't really trust each other, like we're not really
Mhm.
like working together, whatever. So that was kind of funny watching that back on both his side and my side. So yeah, I didn't really work with him very much during the game, so I didn't really know kind of those strategic moves that he was making, just because I wasn't as close to him in the game. So I think I can totally see like watching it back and people who had worked with him that are on the jury, like they definitely saw like, okay, he was driving these votes. He was also really great in the challenges, like had really good alliances. I think can totally see where all of that is coming from. I just personally didn't see it in the game because I just wasn't as close to his game. So that obviously didn't end up working out great for me. But yeah, he played an incredible game.
Well, it wasn't just you. I mean, the final four was basically you, Aubrey, and Zoe just, talking about who it was and or who was
Hmm.
going to be between Aubrey and Zoe, and Luke is, in tears thinking that he's going to be axed last minute and his
Yeah.
name's not even brought up. Everybody is, kind of maybe pushing him to the side as that comp beast. Um,
Mm.
and that was kind of it. So uh, I guess like, yeah, was that your ideal final three of Luke and Aubrey? Or was there maybe somebody, if Kerry had the power play, who would you ideally want to be sitting in that final three with?
I mean, it's so easy in hindsight saying I would ideally have Aubrey and Zoe because Luke had an incredible final tribal. But I think at the time, that obviously is another thing I feel bad about is voting for Zoe in the end. And I think at the time I did that because I genuinely thought she like could have easily won, like gotten so many jury votes, like she had a great story. And so that was kind of my thinking of okay, who do I think can get the most jury votes was my mindset there. So I don't know, looking back though, like it's interesting. Like I wasn't thinking about it so much in terms of alliances, but obviously I had stronger bonds with Aubrey and Zoe than I did with Luke in the game. So I think that would have been a great final three. But obviously, like Luke, I think he obviously deserves it.
Mhm.
I also think that like watching back the finale, and I was in that position of power for that final vote before the final tribal. I would have liked to go in with more of like, this is what I want to do rather than let me hear what you guys want to do and let me make a decision off of that. Like, I think it would have been kind of fun to have, like, okay, I've thought this through. Here's my game plan. Who can I like convince to be on my same page? Because I didn't have a risk of getting voted out. So that would have been a moment to kind of be more upfront and forward with those like strategic decisions. But it is what it is. It was still great. Like, having the rotations of everybody just
It
kind of
was it was
everyone
nice to
stating their
see you in
case.
power, Kerry. It was good. Like after a season, again, I said it earlier in the podcast. After a season where you were the one scrambling, it was nice to see you be able to relax a bit. But I mean, even in that
Yeah.
case, choosing who you're going against for that final three, like that's still not that stress free.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was nice to see you in that power position. And I guess before we get into like the theatrics of that final three, like what was it like winning that immunity, that final immunity for you?
Oh, that was the best. That was just such a good feeling. For exactly the reasons that you said. It was like I feel like I've had my name come up in so many different votes. Went to exile twice. I had the split vote with Allie too. Um, so many things where I just felt like I was on the chopping block all the time. I'd never won a challenge. On the first day, our tribe lost so many challenges. So it was a really nice sense of security and like, everybody wants to make it to the end. So it was just such a nice feeling to know that I had played the game all the way through. And that was like couldn't have asked for anything better. Like I was so happy to have done that. So winning that, challenge, and both winning a challenge in itself was exciting, but then the security and that it brought, and that I was able to go to the final three was even better.
Yeah, I mean, we were ecstatic for you on crew. That was really a cool win. And it's really hard, especially at that final four, because all of you played a really good game. But I feel like personally, like for all the adversity that you face, like being able to take a round off, even though it's the last round, like that was a nice thing to see. Again, on the friend level, on the host level, it's all professional, but friend level,
I appreciate it.
Supportive. So we go into final tribal council, and I think, all three of you have a very unique story. And I think all three of you have a good winning game if you pitch it right. As a fan, as like the editor, I don't think you were able to present your case in the best way possible. So do you agree with that? Is there anything that you would have done different in that final three of how you presented that game to the jury?
Yeah, I think I totally could have presented it differently. I think still in the back of my mind, weirdly enough, was the whole like Josie idol thing. I wasn't sure about like how, like if I should be truthful about it, if I should like really talk through like all of the nitty-gritty about that, or just kind of not really touch on it at all. I think that was one thing that I was still a little bit unsure of kind of going into it, which may have impacted the whole tribal a little bit. I also just think, like you said, I think there were so many things that happened during the whole game that probably would have made sense to just like delve into a little bit more. And I think probably give myself a little bit more credit also about staying in the game and making it that far, and like framing it in a sense of more than this happened to me. It's more of like I was involved in like taking action in all of these things. So I think that would have been a better way to frame it.
I think so too. I think you definitely needed to give yourself credit, put yourself on that pedestal, because you definitely played a great game. I think maybe even if you buttered up Tyler a little bit too, I don't know if you necessarily would have had Tyler's vote, but being able to say like, yeah, like you were the power player and I lashed myself onto you. You might not have thought that, but you were my ticket, hopefully. And I made it here. But I also think Aubrey didn't really pitch her game to the best effect too. I feel like Luke really came in with a narrative that he had been crafting like throughout the game, and he, he's in law school now. Like he was ready to deliver that final plea. But the jury also seemed very, I don't want to say bitter, but they were definitely a little more heavy-handed on the game that they perceived what was happening. Does that maybe ring true to you of like their perception of what happened in the game might have been different than what we ended up seeing?
In terms of like my personally, or just like the
in
game
general? Like, so from the host perspective, I felt like this has nothing to do with like Luke's answers or Aubrey's answers or your answers. I definitely felt like there was no clear narrative, even from editing, of who was like controlling what until, around the merge time, once like the dust kind of settled after that safety chain advantage, and it just kind of eventually became that group picking off Tyler's allies, and then where we ended up where we were at. So that whole pre-game or that whole pre-merge felt just so chaotic, and information was all over the place. Do you feel like there might have been some perceptions or people coming into that jury that already kind of had their mind made up of the narrative that they wanted to follow?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. I mean, I think, like you said, there was so much going on before the merge that, like, there was everybody was kind of navigating their own path, and certain people were involved in certain alliances that form and then broke, and then other people were dealing with other things like you said, it was just so much going on. So I think there was a lot of like wanting kind of clarity on like certain situations that happened maybe pre-merge that weren't very clear at the time, because there was so much going on. I think that the questions that were asked definitely like were like pretty challenging. I think some of them.
Yeah.
So it was definitely like the jury definitely came prepared. But yeah, I mean, everybody has their own perception of the game. It's hard to go to the jury and be unbiased about like your experience. Like everybody kind of comes in with that perception of what they thought happened in the game. But even myself, it's like there are so many things I didn't know were going on behind the scenes. So it was definitely interesting to see how that all played out with their questions.
Was there any point during like the final three jury questioning that you were like, I don't think I have this? Like, you
Yeah.
ended up being a 0 vote finalist, but I think you deserved, at least a couple votes maybe thrown your way. But was there any point during those questionings that you were like, I think my casket's been buried for a sec?
Yeah, I don't remember when this was. I remember Tyler's like what he was saying. He was like, I don't think he asked me any questions. I don't remember if he asked Aubrey a question, but then he was like, Luke, I'm voting for you. I was like, okay. I already thought Luke had a really good story, and then to hear like I'm voting for you is like, I thought that was a pretty strong statement. So that I don't remember exactly when that was, but that kind of like solidified it for me.
Yeah. So again, we talked about Luke. You guys underestimated his story. During that final tribal, was there a point where you were like, oh dang, like Luke's got a strong pitch here? Like, was that kind of sitting there?
Right off the bat, I mean, he's just like he really nailed it. Like his whole like he was just able to articulate his story really well, and just kind of show that I think like we were talking about earlier, like he framed it accurately, that he was responsible for all of these things. He won the challenges, he orchestrated votes, all of that. I think I could have definitely taken a page out of his book for sure on how to frame my final tribal.
Well, I mean, you never know what the future of Survivor Grand Rapids holds. I guess, Kerry, question for you: would you come back for another one?
Oh, I mean, of course, if I was invited.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so fun. It was also like so stressful, and like watching it back is like you just get back in the zone that you were. But it's also fun to like take a step back and be like, this was just it's a game, like it's such a fun experience, like it's just so great to have this experience, and I would love to do it again. I think there's so many other like it'd be fun to play with new people, and also just having the background of like having played would definitely help out, I think, or at least be a different perspective to have. So yeah, I definitely would.
What would you maybe, I don't want to put you on the spot, because if we come back and you were to, play, I don't want your whole game outlined on the podcast.
Yeah.
what would you like to maybe change or come in and do different and get a different experience?
Well, I think
Unless you liked going to exile all the time and want to.
maybe I'll skip exile. So maybe we'll win a few more challenges in the first day. I think that would help. No, I think generally just like now that I have played the game and I understand more of like the general survivor strategy of like people's thought process behind certain votes, I think just having that understanding is like just would make it easier to think about, okay, who do I vote out? Like some rounds as especially in the early rounds, like who could I possibly vote out right now? But I think more thinking ahead, like even though you obviously want to make it to the next round, but thinking ahead does help frame who you would want to vote out potentially. So that would be lessons learned. Mm-hmm.
It is a balance. I mean, we saw this season, you had people maybe planning like a round or two ahead of who they want to at least ally with and work with. And then you have Tyler planning like a merge takeover with his Grand Rapids coalition. And we saw where that got him, with those blinders on. So it is an interesting balance. And I'd be curious to see how Kerry does round 2, Kerry 2.0.
Yeah, so we'll see.
We will see. It is, I mean, it was so stressful out there, even on the production side of things. And then coming in and seeing how much you guys played was an insane feat. I'm so glad to have this done and off my shoulders because it's definitely draining for me too. So we can't confirm or deny if there will be a future season, but that's the dream. I would love to do a Born versus Grand Rapids, so we'll put that out there. But we're getting up there in age. I don't know how many. I don't know if you want to see a bunch of us running around anymore. I don't know if Eric will let us back. So
pull a hamstring.
We'll have to call Noah in for medical quite a few times.
Yes. Exactly.
But yeah, Kerry. I mean, that we recapped your whole season pretty well. So we do have a little bit of word association with our cast. This is something new. John suggested doing. So
nice.
We can definitely hop into that. Before we get to that, I want to give a shout out to Angela, who is in our comments. Really nice comment in here. Angela's been watching Bad Blood. Looks like she found us recently, and her comments are always nice to read. I love when people outside of our community find our videos and be able to enjoy that season. So Angela, I'm glad you've enjoyed it. And if you stay tuned, I hope you enjoy the other seasons. Like I mentioned in the comments, Angela, season 1, a little bit rough, 2, 3, a little bit better. We're a little rough in the beginning. We're not where we're at. We didn't have drones back then, but now we do. All right, Kerry. So this is our rough draft. I haven't done this before, so we'll just play it by ear. I guess I'll name somebody, and we'll do this in alphabetical order. We'll go through the cast, and then just give me your, first word or phrase that kind of comes to mind with that person. Sound good?
Sounds good. I'm nervous.
We're live.
Oh, geez.
All right. First up is Adrian.
Oh, athletic is the first word that comes to mind. He killed it in the challenges. He was so speedy.
All right. Allie.
Ooh, smart. She was like making decisions that I didn't even know about that were happening behind the scenes. And I won't talk for all these because I know there's a lot to go through.
That's okay. There might be some on here that you might not have played with too often. But,
okay.
All right. How about Aubrey?
Oh, I would just say like game player. I know that's like 2 words, obviously, but I think she just like really nailed the strategy of Survivor.
Awesome. All right, Brooklyn.
Yeah, I didn't play with Brooklyn too much. I think she's awesome though. We'll go awesome.
Awesome. All right. And then Chase. Going all the way back to round 1.
Robbed. I'll say robbed.
All right. Eli.
Oh, strategic. He was one of my favorite people watching back. I thought his like alliances was really like the way he navigated like the Tyler alliances was, I thought, really strategic.
Okay. Grace.
Also robbed. I know that's another repeat, but yeah, I think she would have been great to work with.
Yeah.
She stayed in.
When it was between you two at that vote, I was like devastated. I was like, no. First of all, like I hate when a losing tribe loses on the first day. Like it is miserable for me to have to snuff torches on day one, especially if it's back to back to back tribes. So when it was between you two, I was like, no, not Grace or Kerry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was hard.
Yeah.
How about Hannah?
Ooh, well, the words that are coming to mind are words I've already used, so I'm trying to be a little bit different. I was also going to say athletic. I think she did really great in the challenges, but she was also like such a strong player. Well, strong, that covers both. Yeah, that covers. Yeah.
All right, James.
Can I use Rob?
Rob, all right.
Sorry,
you're good. Like I said, this is our first run through. So
sorry to James as well.
Okay. How about John?
I was like charismatic. That's the word I was looking for.
Okay.
I would say he's super charismatic. Like, yeah, confessionals were 10 out of 10.
Nice. How about Josh? Did you play with Josh at all?
I don't think I played with Josh at all, but he's great. And we'll say go blue for Josh.
Go blue for Josh. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How about Josie?
I'll say like energetic. He was definitely brought the energy.
All right. Luke?
Winner. He won the game.
All right. Magingo. Did you play it all with Magingo?
I don't think
he
so.
did.
I don't think so. But she's like traveling the world. I don't know. She's awesome. Adventure, yeah.
All right. How about Sam? Boy Sam.
I would say I was only with him for like a round or two, maybe. So I don't know. I would say like also strong.
Okay.
I don't know if I can use that twice also, but
all good.
I would say so.
We're writing our own rules today. So
the challenge. What was the challenge? And you have to like hold the
weight.
Yeah, that was crazy. So I'll go strong.
All right. How about girl Sam, Samantha?
Also didn't play with her tons, but I would say like especially watching her back, she was a lot more like strategic than I knew during the game. So we'll go strategic as well.
Okay. How about Tyler?
Oh, bold. We'll go bold. He made big moves and I appreciated it.
Okay. And then finally, Zoe.
Ally. she was the best ally. So
all right. Well, that's I think we did good for our first time. So
all right. Sounds good.
Yeah. So I guess Kerry, anything you want to leave us off on for your Bad Blood experience? I know it's been a 3-year journey, filming it and seeing that finale. I guess like anything you wanna leave us with, or stage is yours.
Yeah. Oh man, well, I think it was an awesome experience. I think we covered all the big moments in detail. So it was really great. I'm just glad that like I feel like I really got to immerse myself in every part of Survivor. Like you had the votes where your name was out. You had votes where there was the split vote. There was having an idol, giving an idol to someone else to play, like, being in all of these situations where I felt like out of, good standing in the tribe, I think just made the experience more fulfilling because I got to see like all the different scenarios. So I thought it was great. And yeah, you guys did an amazing job. Like the crew and the production was like way better than I could have ever like anticipated it being. So you guys did an awesome job.
Thank you. I'm glad you were able to play. I'm glad we were able to get you out there to play. I guess, how was it? Did your family like watching it back? Like friends? I guess, were they
Yeah.
aware of your placement? I know we've talked about it, but
Yeah. I think my mom has been watching. She when there's a whole like idol situation going on, she's like, "Can't believe you skated out of that one." Like, I don't know how you did it. So yeah, that's been really fun. I think she did or does know how I place, because Noah was like staying with my parents when he left Survivor. So obviously I told him what happened and
yeah.
they knew, but I don't think that took away from any of the experience. It's and my roommate right now, she's a huge Survivor fan. So it's been fun like talking game with her, even though I don't watch the show as much, but she does. So we can talk about it, which is fun.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you were able to have that experience. I mean, again, something really special for us to have, as a friend group. I mean, Noah
Yeah.
helped create this with me. I mean, he's our first winner, but we talked Survivor back in 2016, and for you to be, part of everything now, it's super special for me. And it's just a really nice thing to be able to have. I know you're one of my parents' favorites, so like they were.
Oh, I'm so glad.
You had your Cincinnati fans down here. They were rooting for you, so couldn't pull it out. But Kerry, I got to say, like, this was a great journey to be able to go on with you. So I'm glad you were able to participate, and thank you for playing.
Oh, well, thank you for having me play. It was the best, and I'm so glad I could be a part of it.
Well, that's everything that we have today. For those tuning in, we posted our schedule for the podcast this week. We have another one with Luke on Wednesday at 7:30, and then we'll be going into next week for those other interviews. So stay up to date on social media. I'll do my best updating with that, but it really kind of does come down to whenever people are available. So some of those might be a little bit last minute, but for those who have made it to this point, I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for being with us for this entire season, for this 3-year journey. It has been a pleasure. Kerry, thank you for joining me tonight
Thank you.
to be here. And for those watching at home, have a good night. You can head back to camp. I'll see you later. Bye.